In Search of the Miraculous, Chapter 12. When a man understands his helplessness in the face of Ouspensky, his attitude towards himself and towards Ouspensky in him ceases to be either indifferent or unconcerned. Self-observation becomes observation of Ouspensky. A man understands that he is not Ouspensky, that Ouspensky is nothing but the mask that he wears, the part which he unconsciously plays, and which unfortunately he cannot stop playing, a part which rules him and makes him do and say thousands of stupid things, thousands of things which he would never do or say himself. If he is sincere with himself, he feels that he is in the power of Ouspensky, and at the same time, he feels that he is not Ouspensky. He begins to be afraid of Ouspensky. He begins to feel that he is the enemy. No matter what he would like to do, everything is intercepted and altered by Ouspensky. Ouspensky is his enemy. Ouspensky's desires, tastes, sympathies, antipathies, thoughts, opinions are either opposed to his own views, feelings, and moods, or they have nothing in common with them. And at the same time, Ouspensky is his master. He is the slave. He has no will of his own. He has no means of expressing his desires, because whenever he would like to do or say would be done for him by Ouspensky. On this level of self-observation, a man must understand that his whole aim is to free himself from Ouspensky. And since he cannot, in fact, free himself from Ouspensky, because he is himself, he must therefore master Ouspensky and make him do not what Ouspensky of the given moment wants, but what he himself wants to do. From being the master, Ouspensky must become the servant. The first stage of work on oneself consists of separating oneself from Ouspensky mentally, in being separated from him in actual fact, in keeping apart from him. But the fact must be borne in mind that the whole attention must be concentrated upon Ouspensky, for a man is unable to explain what he himself really is. He can explain Ouspensky to himself, and with this he must begin remembering at the same time that he is not Ouspensky. The most dangerous thing in this case is to rely on one's own judgment. If a man is lucky, he may at this time have someone near him who can tell him where he is and where Ouspensky is. But he must, moreover, trust this person, because he will undoubtedly think that he understands everything himself, and that he knows where he is and where Ouspensky is. And not only in relation to himself, but in relation also to other people, he will think that he knows and sees their Ouspensky's. All this is, of course, self-deception. At this stage, a man can see nothing either in relation to himself or to others. The more convinced he is that he can, the more he is mistaken. But if he can, even to a slight extent, be sincere with himself and really wants to know the truth, then he can find an exact and infallible basis for judging rightly first about himself and then about other people. But the whole point lies in being sincere with oneself. And this is by no means easy. People do not understand that sincerity must be learned. They imagine that to be sincere or not to be sincere depends upon their desire or decision. But how can a man be sincere with himself when in actual fact he sincerely does not see what he ought to see in himself? Someone has to show it to him, and his attitude towards the person who shows it to him must be a right one, that is, such as will help him to see what he is shown, and not, as so often happens, hinders him if he begins to think that he already knows better. This is a very serious moment in the work. A man who loses his direction at this moment, will never find it again afterwards. It must be remembered that a man such as he is, does not possess the means of distinguishing I and Ouspensky in himself. Even if he tries to, he will lie to himself and invent things, and he will never see himself as he really is. It must be understood that without the help of an outside man, he can never see himself. In order to know why this is so, you must remember a great deal about what has been said earlier. As was said earlier, self-observation brings a man to the realization of the fact that he does not remember himself. Man's inability to remember himself is one of the chief and most characteristic features of his being, and the cause of everything else in him. The inability to remember oneself finds expression in many ways. A man does not remember his decisions. He does not remember the promises. The promises lie. He does not remember the promises lie has made to himself. The promises lie he has made to himself. Does not remember what he said or felt a month, a week, a day, or even an hour ago. He begins work of some kind, and after a certain lapse of time, he does not remember why he began it. It is especially in connection with work on oneself that this happens particularly often. A man can remember a promise given to another person only with the help of artificial associations which have been educated into him, and they in turn are connected with conceptions which are also artificially created of honor, honesty, duty, and so on. But speaking in general, one can say truthfully that if a man remembers one thing, he forgets 10 other things which are much more important for him to remember. And a man particularly easily forgets what relates to himself, those mental photographs of himself which previously he had taken. And this deprives a man's view and opinions of any stability and precision. A man does not remember what he has thought or what he has said, and he does not remember how he thought or how he spoke. This is, in its turn, connected with one of the fundamental characteristics of man's attitude towards himself and to all his surroundings, namely his constant identification with what at any given moment has attracted his attention, his thoughts, or his desires, and his imagination. Identification is so common a quality that for purposes of observation, it's difficult to separate it from anything else. Man is always in a state of identification, only the object of the identification changes. A man identifies with a small problem which confronts him, and he completely forgets the great aims with which he began his work. He identifies with one thought, and he forgets another thought. He is identified with one feeling, one mood, and forgets his own wider thoughts, emotions, and moods. In work on themselves, people are so much identified with separate aims that they fail to see the wood for the trees. 2 or 3 trees nearest to them represent for them the whole wood.